Hey there, I'm James Urquhart with the TLCA. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, subscribe, and comment and all that stuff. We hope to bring you great cruiser content from myself and other TLCA member contributors. First, a quick intro. I'm James. I'm the VP of Marketing for the Toyota Land Cruiser Association. If you don't know about the TLCA, please take a minute to check it out at tlca.org or send me a note at msvp@tlca.org. and I can answer any questions you might have. It's a great organization. We work with many member organizations around the country and the world to bring together the Toyota 4x4 community. We also publish an excellent quality, real, physical magazine. Not too many folks are doing this. Great content from volunteers that help bring the story from your local organization to the rest of the country. We also help with organizing, advertising, and insurance for your local Land Cruiser wheeling events. So today we're highlighting one of our great new programs, the Member Travel Grant. With the mission of giving back to the community, we've allocated some money to allow those TLCA members of distinction to travel to a TLCA event that they normally wouldn't go to, somewhere maybe a little out of the way. TLCA member clubs have been generous in offering the grant recipient a free VIP experience at the event of their choice. In return, the recipient will give us a firsthand experience of what it's like to be at a TLCA event through an article and pictures in a future Toyota Trails magazine. So with me today, I have a few folks. First, I'll introduce Kelly Holloway. So Kelly, thanks for joining me today. Can you first take a little time to tell us who you are and maybe how you first got interested in Land Cruisers?
Well, certainly. As you said, my name's Kelly Holloway. I'm in Kansas City. I've lived here most of my life. And I've gotten into TLCA because of some early encounters with some Toyota Land Cruisers, specifically when I was about 17-year-old in high school working down in the auto shop. And one of the teachers came in with their FJ40 and wanted to get it fixed. The carburetor was gummed up a little bit. So they had me take that carburetor all apart, dunk it in stuff that probably the EPA would cringe for right now. But we took it apart, rebuilt it all in one evening, and got it going the next day. And school was out shortly after. And I was so confused why someone would be so concerned about this old car and get it running. And he said he was going to take it from Kansas City, drive it all the way to Alaska and all over Canada for the summer. I was blown away by this and I didn't believe it. And so the next year, my senior year, when I got back, I tracked him down and he told me all about his adventures throughout Canada and Alaska and had no problems with the car. If I remember right, the car had already had like 300,000 miles on it. So from that point on, I was very intrigued with the Land Cruisers. And throughout, I had several different experiences. But finally, in 2007, I bought my first Land Cruiser. In fact, I was looking, found it online, and that's back when Craigslist probably had 20 posts a day. But I found it online, and I was so intrigued by it. But I needed some experience. I needed to find someone that had information about it. So that's when I found out about TLCA, because I found that little Trails magazine you just showed. I found a version of it from back then. It looked a little different. And in the back, there's a listing of all the local clubs. And from that, I reached out to the current president of the Tornado Alley Cruisers, that is the Kansas City club. And that individual pointed me on to someone named Eric with the K. I remember I had to have the K on there. And at any rate, I reached out to this person and sent them all the information I had about these cars. It was two of them, two FJ40s, 75 and 76. And Eric quickly got in touch with me, and we talked about the pictures, and he started asking about rivets on the wheels and Saginaw conversions and all these things. I had no idea what they were. And in the end, he volunteered to drive 6 hours round trip down from Kansas City to go look at these vehicles with me. This person had never heard of me before, never knew me, and was willing to help out that much. So that's really how I understood what that TLC is all about, and owning a Land Cruiser, the responsibility you have to help someone else out. So that's where I learned all about this. Personally, I have owned several different Land Cruisers now. I've restored a couple of FJ40s. Let's see, I have a 73 series I'm working on right now, as well as a 45 series on an 80 frame. I actually spent a lot of my time in the 80 series world. We've created a portal axled 80 series, a Volvo portal axle 80 series we called FOO, F-O-O, a force of one. And then we also, my son and I created an 80 series two-door pickup truck that he runs now all over Iowa. So anyway, that's kind of history about me, how I got into Land Cruisers. And since that time, I've been very active as a delegate to the TLCA, as well as writing different articles. And I think one of my articles is in the magazine you just held up. So anyway, that's a little bit about me.
Very cool. Thanks for outlining that. So you really told us an incredible story in your nomination. The story was focused on two people. Can you first tell us about Alan?
Certainly. So Alan is an individual that is a kind of an elder statesman of our local club. He actually was the president of the National TLCA way back in the early 2000s. And so, before I bought my first Land Cruiser, I honestly didn't know his name was Alan for the longest time. Everyone called him Chef, which I'll let Eric give you more about that story later. But it seemed as if that every Land Cruiser in our club had been touched at some point by Chef or Eric, and including some of mine. In fact, one of my first Land Cruisers, Chef actually ended up buying the tub from it. So at any rate, like local clubs, we all kind of share and parts go here and there. A couple of years ago, I organized or co-organized a trip to Moab for our club. Eric and Alan joined us for that event, and it was really a magical time for me. It was my first time to Moab as a group and off-roading and wheeling, and I had such a pleasure getting to know Alan more and more. In fact, that article's in that TLCA Trails magazine you're just talking about. But Alan also had a passion for music. Alan really impacted the musical scene in mid-Missouri quite a bit. And it's quite amazing about the different bands he was in and all the things he touched. But he had even a bigger passion for Land Cruisers, I feel. I mean, maybe they're equal in his passions. His garage was just littered with Land Cruisers and Land Cruiser parts. And like I said, he touched so many different cars in our club. He actually had an article in the New York Times some years ago as well about his love for Land Cruisers and about keeping it original. And anyway, what a wonderful man.
Right. So it's really incredible. And it kind of brings us to Eric, who you're putting the nomination towards. We're going to bring him on the call in just a minute. And he's there waiting patiently. Appreciate that, Eric. So can you tell us a little bit about who he is and what he's really done to show that true TLCA spirit?
Certainly. As I mentioned before, it was demonstrated the first time I talked with him on the phone in his desire to help some stranger that he's never met. So that's just the kind of guy he is. So, when I was starting to work on that Land Cruiser, I remember him reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, Kelly, is your kids going to be in this car?" Yeah. Well, you ought to think about changing a few things. I know you want it historically correct, but you probably want good brakes, and you probably want to have disc brakes, and you probably want a dual circuit brake system. And of course, back then I was just learning these things, but I definitely wanted disc brakes. So Eric said, get the parts together and come to my house. So I did, and we got out there, and step by step, he helped walk me through it, but he didn't do the work. He pointed at it and instructed and taught me how to do it. And to that point, we're really cut from the same cloth in that we want to help others, but we're not going to do the work. We're going to teach them. We're going to, teach them how to fish so that the next time they can either help others or do it themselves. So, it's amazing. His generosity in helping others comes out all the time. Just a couple weeks ago, we actually went to Colorado, 3 of us from their club, and we were going up Holy Cross, what is known as one of the hardest off-roading trails in Colorado. And we're doing this in 80 series. And on the way down, circumstances were such that my fan decided to eat the radiator. So we were halfway down and had lost the radiator altogether. So at figuring that out, we sent Eric ahead with the other car. And once we got cell service, he was able to reach out, and we were able to track down within minutes another set of radiators and fans and things we needed. And the comment that I was seeing on this is on the thread where he was getting help was other people that had received help from Eric in the past saying, I wished I was closer. You've helped me then, you helped me then, you helped me then. And Eric made the comment, I don't remember. This has been so long ago. I don't remember helping these folks, but they remember that I helped them. And that falls back to one of the things Eric told me the first time we met, which is I forgot more about Land Cruisers than you'll ever know. And that is so true. He is a wealth of knowledge. I am so proud to know him and so proud to be a friend of his. But that really speaks to what Eric is.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to bring Eric on the call now. And Kelly, you can tell us a little bit about how Alan and Eric and how the story kind of intertwines. But
very good. So my understanding is that Alan started working on an FJ45 project almost over 20 years ago. As many of us have projects that sat in the garage and kind of progressed here and there. Every so often we'd see a picture come up with some more progress on it, and it just kind of meandered on. And it was starting to get a little momentum about a year ago. And that's when Eric got a call from Alan, his best friend. And it was revealed that Alan was diagnosed with a very rare cancer, and Alan would quickly be removed from this earth. So in that phone call, Alan asked Eric to help complete his 45 project, and that's where this story really starts gets to moving, and then that's the task that Eric took on, and he reached out to many others in our club and nationwide and worldwide to find parts to make this able to happen. So with that, I'd like to introduce Eric.
Well, thank you, Kelly. I'm not really sure where to start, but I've known Alan. I guess I can start by just introducing myself. My TLCA number is 5303, if that gives any reference as to how long I've been into this club. I joined the TLCA in college. It was a stapled newsletter that came out every once in a while, and I bought my first on spring break in college in Seattle, Washington, and drove it back. Note to self, don't mess with wires in the dash that are loose in the middle of Utah at night in a snowstorm. It doesn't work out well, but the truck got home. After we got home, I graduated from college. It was my daily driver. Anyone that has ever daily driven an FJ40 knows that can be a challenge in itself. shortly after that, I was in my first, I guess, real job, and this thing called a Land Cruiser mailing list was a thing back then. The internet was still kind of in its infancies, and a bunch of us in the Midwest decided, you know what, we're going to all try to meet up. And we did. We all decided that we're going to meet in Columbia, Missouri, which is in the middle of the state. And I hop in my FJ40 and I drive to Columbia, and we meet at this Quick Trip. And as I pull in the lot to get gas at this Quick Trip, I look under my truck and it's puking gear oil. Apparently I had blown the seal between the transmission and transfer case, or the output by the drum or something. And this was my first introduction to everyone in the Midwest. And I'm thinking to myself, this is just great. I just blew up my truck. I can't even get home. I can't go four-wheeling with these guys. And this guy named Alan pulls up. He looks at me, looks at the truck. He's like, yeah, that sucks. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, I only live a few miles away, so let's just take the truck over there and park it. We did. I hopped in with Alan, and that was basically the start of a very long friendship. We did end up, Alan was kind enough to let me leave my broken down FJ40 at his house, and we fixed it together, and I ended up driving it home, which was awesome. So kind of my ability to, or my deal with helping others, is that's how I was brought into this. Alan started that with me. He took me under his wing. I was green. I didn't know anything about trucks, and he kind of taught me all of that. And then eventually the student became the teacher. And later on, Alan would be just like, you just go ahead and do whatever you need to do to my truck. So I apologize. My dog's in the background barking. So we ended up starting a chapter called the Tornado Alley Cruisers. And we then started traveling all over the country. Alan and I would hop in a truck or throw a truck on a trailer, and we drove to Moab. We did Black Hills. We did Texas. We did G-Smitter, South Dakota, places all in between. And I wish I could count how many road trips, but I don't need to, because it was a lot, and it was a lot of fun. And then we ended up, I think I joined the TLCA board of directors as the secretary in the 2000s. Eventually Alan joined the TLCA, and he was the president for at least 2 terms. Eventually I changed the role to EVP. So that's kind of my TLCA background. I was on the board at least a decade, I think. I kind of lost track. At one point, I met the, at that time, administrator of the TLCA, and we've been together 14 years or so. So the TLCA has kind of brought together my personal life, my friends. We started the club. The club is still great, going well. It's still the way I wanted it to be, which was family oriented, have fun, help others. And Amanda, you'll love this. I wanted it to be dog friendly, because Alan always had a cool dog. And our last event last weekend, I think there was probably 5 to 10 dogs. It was awesome. Land Cruiser wise, I've owned my 76 FJ40, which went from bone stock in college to, at the end, when I finally sold it to a friend, age 41, toy box, split case, sitting on FJ60 axles with 38s. And it was a fun truck. I just needed to go back to my roots and focus on my 45. But this isn't about me. This was actually about Alan and kind of what I did, how I helped him, and how he helped me. So Alan reached out in, I want to say April of last year, and he had just gotten diagnosed with a thyroid issue, and we were waiting on pathology. The next day, the pathology came back, and he had what was called anaplastic thyroid cancer, which at that point in time, he had 2 weeks to 2 to 3 months and started an aggressive chemo. He asked me, he goes, well, I need someone to take over trying to get my truck done. It's like, really? You've had this longer than I've known you. I made you take me to go see it because I didn't believe the thing existed. It's a 1965. It's actually 1964 long bed 45 titled in 65. So you all know that the titles are a little different than the years. We don't have the brass tag on the firewall. We looked everywhere, but all indications is it's a 64. And I called it the Snuffleupagus truck because I didn't believe it existed. It was his imaginary friend. And eventually he took me out to the body shop where it was at. And it did exist, and it slowly made some progress over the years. And after he got diagnosed, that's when things kind of hit fast forward. So it was at a body shop in Columbia, and I went out and met with Ed. Ed is the owner of the body shop. We call him the Metal Whisperer because he beat and molded and just made this thing absolutely beautiful. But I basically would call myself a project manager because this was Alan's dream car. He always wanted a stockish FJ45, but not too stock. He wanted to be able to drive it. So that involved a firewall swap, newer brakes, and a 2F and a 4-speed, and we kept the original 3-speed transfer case with the vacuum actuator and the lever on the dash. It took all the way up until a week before he passed. I was in Columbia, I want to say every weekend for at least 4 to 5 months or longer. I kind of lost track. Jockeying parts, finding parts. We would keep everything on track at the body shop. And then eventually it went to another one of Alan's friend's house, Steve Fox. And then we did the let's get it running portion of a build, which is usually just about as long as the bodywork portion. New upholstery, new tires, new radiator. At one point I went to Toyota and they came out with a shopping cart for me of parts that I had ordered. So it was fast and furious, but when your best friend that you've traveled all over the country with says, hey, will you finish this? You don't say no. You just do it, and you do what needs to be done. I really tried my hardest to get both trucks done at the same time. I wanted my 45 and his 45 to just be able to go camping at least once, but we did finish it a week before he passed. He got to drive it. He went to one of his band members' places, the Daves, and drove it and showed it off, and it was ecstatic. We also got to pick him up at the hospital in it, which was the first time he had ever gotten to see the thing drive. And he came out in a wheelchair, and it's kind of humorous because the pain meds were starting to kick in. It had kind of metastasized to his abdomen, and he wasn't going to tell us that, but he took a couple trips around the truck and got to see it, and was just, the smile was well worth it. I couldn't have done any of this without the TLCA, without my family, without my club. There's there's so many, I can't even list them all off, but it was a beautiful thing to be able to be asked to finish something for a friend. And that's kind of, I think, why I guess I got nominated for this is I just did what was right. And I just wanted to do something for my best friend and make his dream come true.
Completely understandable and just very inspirational. Thank you for sharing that story. It's just incredible to hear the history of Alan and what he's done for the TLCA and what you did to help him, to give him that dying wish. It's an incredible inspiration. So that said, you're going to get a big pile of money and you can go wherever you like. The TLCA is going to reimburse you up to $1,500. You get to go to any of our TLCA national events. And where do you want to go?
Well, Heather reached out to me and she said, Eric, I need you to pick an event you haven't been to. Well, that makes the list a little shorter. So I picked the Relic Run because, well, I'm a relic. My truck's now a relic.
Right.
Most of my friends are relics. And it just seems like the appropriate place to take a vehicle that you now consider a piece of art and a piece of the family. And I'm tired. I've done the let's go out and wheel hard and break stuff and have to have a tow rig. And I'm to the point now in my life where I appreciate the beauty of what I had when I was in college, which is a stocker that you can drive and have fun with and show off and just chat with people and just be more of a family. So I chose the Relic Run for that.
Well, and we appreciate it. It's certainly, it's going to be a great event. Last year was a fun event. We had like almost 50 relics and then 50 non-relics. So your point about hard wheeling, we still have that at the event. In fact, this year they're planning on having some private locations offsite with some medium to really hardcore heavy duty stuff, but it's all private locations, which is really nice because typically the event is at Uwharrie National Forest, which is obviously public, so we've got traffic to contend with, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for picking that. We can't wait to have you there. It was just a coincidence. This was not a setup. I do happen to be the ONSC events coordinator, as well as the TLCA MSVP, as well as a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, so I really appreciate both of you joining us today. It was a pleasure. It was really great to hear both of your stories, your history, and we look forward to seeing you in April at the Relic Run, and look forward to seeing some great photos and some experience from your firsthand visit to the Carolinas. So thanks again for joining us. I'm James with the TLCA. We'll see you next time.